Rogers, and I became an Episcopal priest. And actually, I came into the Episcopal Church in a very strange way. I was trapped out in a desert in Kenya on an immersion trip while I was in seminary. And while I was stuck out there, we decided to pass the time by reading the Book of Common Prayer and doing the daily offices. After reading the daily offices and realizing that the language sounded somewhat familiar, it sounded a little bit like the tradition that I came from, and also realizing the beauty of it, that at any moment in time where you feel alone, you're praying this prayer that perhaps hundreds, thousands, millions of other folks are praying at the same time. After I really got that, it sunk into me that the Episcopal Church was a place for me to be. Well, I was ordained in the Methodist Church beforehand, and after I received my penultimate ordination in the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, I realized that I needed a wider table, a place where more people who were beloved by God were welcomed and invited and could experience that love equally and without hesitation. And so the Episcopal Church became one of those places that I explored. And there's something about sharing at the table, inviting others to the table, expanding God's welcome to all those who need it, that resonated with me deeply. It reminded me of my grandmother's table. And I felt that if the Episcopal Church could be like my grandmother's table, then there might be a place for me there as well. I think that when we all get into ministry, we have all these high ideas of big, grand moments that ministry entails. That maybe one day we're preaching this great sermon and millions of people come to church, or one day we're doing this huge, life-changing ministry thing that somehow changes the world. And ministry can be those moments, but oftentimes it's not. Ministry is really made up all these impactful, beautiful, really small moments. And those are the things that really define ministry. So it's not the large social justice events, or it's not the large dramatic sermon. I've preached tons of sermons, and some of them people have been fully asleep in. But when I get to visit somebody who lost their wife and be by them at their bedside and pray with them, those things really matter. When I get to baptize children or invite, like on last Sunday, a group of children to come and do an Easter egg hunt in the sanctuary, those things really matter. And I would say that vocation, the calling, is to those small moments. Well, the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri covers a large geographic area. Plenty of diversity, plenty of places that I would never go normally, plenty of people that perhaps on a regular day I might never see. The Episcopal Diocese of Missouri finds a really cool way of bridging those gaps and bringing all those different pieces of the puzzle together. And so when I think of the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri, I think of a place where there are many pieces that come together to make one beautiful, beautiful image. And it's diverse, it's urban and rural, it is black and white, it is so many wonderful things that represents the full diversity of not just the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri, but the state of Missouri and maybe even the nation. Yeah, when I hear that statement, it means to me not only to preach, to say a good thing, but also to live a good thing. And so for me, I place a huge focus on making sure that I am not just preaching the gospel, but living out the gospel in ways that are tangible for people and in ways that people can see. For me specifically, it shows up in two ways. One, it shows up in providing everybody with radical welcome and being the chief exemplar of radical welcome in this community. And that means reaching out to people who aren't reached out to, inviting people in who aren't typically invited in, and showing up in places where people don't usually expect. And I would say the other big part of that is also not just preaching about love, but living out love. So if love requires you to go visit a neighbor that you don't like or that doesn't like you, you should go do it. If love calls you to love somebody who seems at this particular moment unlovable, go and do it. And that's what I think that statement calls me to do. Yes. So at the 10-year anniversary of the death of Michael Brown, the church decided to host an art showcase to commemorate those events after Michael Brown's death and the Ferguson uprising. We changed our sign outside that asked the community to remember what those events meant. It created a lot of tension in the community. A lot of people had mixed feelings about it, and a lot of people didn't like it. For instance, I got specifically a lot of notes telling me that people didn't like it. And on one particular day, I received a note under my door from a neighbor who lived close to the church. Well, I read the letter, I read the note, and then to the chagrin and maybe the anxiety of my senior warden, I went over to their house. They lived right across the street. Went over, knocked on the door. We had a wonderful conversation about the sign, about the events of Ferguson, the death of Michael Brown, and what it means, and why it was important to have a particular witness during that time. Now, we had the conversation. Did we end up on the same page? Probably not. But we had the conversation, and that conversation was transformative for me, but also for our neighbor. And I think that's what beautiful ministry is when you can engage your neighbor, no matter where they are, and have a transformative engagement, ministry happens. And that's one of the things that sticks out to me. Spiritually, I think that this community needs an opportunity to reimagine what it means to be in community. There are different narratives always around Ferguson and this particular area, both locally and nationally. And sometimes those particular scripts have invited people to live into those things in not harmonious ways. And what really needs to happen in this moment is that people need to find a new way to engage with one another, to meet, greet, and eat. I mean, that's the story of the church. It always is. You have church if you meet, greet, and eat. And I feel like the wonderful thing that this community needs, because there are so many different ministries where feeding happens in this area, is they need an opportunity to sit around a table, re-engage, and re-meet each other. Now, socially, food scarcity is a huge issue all around our nation, and particularly in this community. Our food pantry is oftentimes overwhelmed. People come to our community dinners, not to go to church, they come to our community dinners to eat because that's what they need. The need for healthy food, healthy grocery stores. There's food deserts all around, and people need access to quality food, nutritious food. And so we have a garden right outside of our church. We partner with a Red Circle to help start community markets. We host a farmers market here in our church because we see that as a relevant need. The better people can feel that they have their basic needs taken care of, that their needs are treated as holy, the more they will be able to feel like they are beloved of God. And so I feel like those are the two critical things that we can do. The Episcopal Church has always been a definition that is in the process of being defined. It has never been one particular way. It has never been a faith without ambiguity. And I feel like at this particular juncture where people are reimagining what it means to be church, reimagining what it means to be community together, that the Episcopal Church needs to embrace some of that ambiguity. It needs to move into a space where it allows people who have gathered and come through its doors to define what it means to be church and what it means to gather together. Now, oftentimes in the Episcopal Church, we love bureaucracy and we love administration. Episcopal means bishops. And so oftentimes we can think of church as an insider game, a members-only jacket criteria. But the church has never been that. It's always been an organism that has been developed organically. And so if we can invite people into the church and not just be a part of what we do as church, but invite them to make church with us, to become church together, I feel like the Episcopal Church will be in a stronger position to give a more relevant witness for what it means to be the body of Christ. The call to follow Jesus Christ is not devoid of a real commitment to social justice. Not as chief, but as particularly important exemplars of the way to follow Christ, following Christ in the way, living the way of love. Clergy have to become that relevant witness in the world that shows that, yes, to follow Christ means to love people who are on the margins, to be with people who are suffering, and to do that in a radical and honest and authentic way. Radical in the sense that it has to get at the root. It has to look at systemic issues. It has to be a part of how society is structured. Authentic. It has to be something that comes from the heart, because the way of love, the way of Jesus Christ, reaches from heart to heart. And it has to be honest. It has to be honest to the gospel. It has to live close to the true principles that which Jesus Christ calls us to do and what our baptismal covenant calls us to do, which ultimately, I think, comes at a head when it says to seek Christ in all people. And so, if we can do those things, we're living faithfully the call to do justice in the world. The Diocese of Missouri gets more wonderfully complex. I think that the best part about church is that sometimes it can be messy. And I feel like if church is messy enough, then it is dealing with the right issues and the right circumstances, and yes, even the right people. So I wish for a messy future for the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri, where we engage in issues that require us to have complex answers to really complex questions, where we engage in a sort of advocacy and accompaniment with our neighbors in such a way that it invites us to have a complicated witness in the world, one that is authentic to us, but one that makes the world question what's at the heart of what we're doing. And I feel like, if we're messy enough, then perhaps that is the only way, the best possible way to clean up things in our world and in our society. That faith is not necessarily a pristine thing, but just like when Jesus invited that one neighbor to put mud over his eyes, that somehow in the mud, in the muckiness of things, that when we can figure it out together, we'll gain more clarity. The one message that I would share with the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri is that God calls us to good trouble. There are plenty of opportunities in the world to disrupt, to dismantle, and God calls us to do it. So get in good trouble. Go ahead, get your hands dirty. It is all good. God calls us to be good troublemakers.